205 hours and 3 minutes. That is the amount of time I spent playing Fire Emblem Three Houses, going through all 4 routes within the game. That's a long time to be playing any video game, let me tell you. And I suppose it's time for the final one of these videos. I suppose it's time to go over my last thoughts for Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's kind of surreal to finally say that, yes, I've done everything in this game that I could possibly do. I mean, I know not literally. There's support conversations I've yet to unlock. There's paralogs I know I haven't done. But yeah, I feel like I'm now at the point where I have the most complete impressions of what Fire Emblem Three Houses is. I can finally go on the internet, look at all the memes, read all the reviews, get involved in discussions without having to be in fear of spoilers. So I feel like a giant weight burden has been lifted from my chest, and I feel amazing. So yeah, let's talk about it one last time. Fire Emblem Three Houses. I was actually a little surprised. The reviews seem a little bit more middling than I was expecting. I was expecting people to really get in love with the series, to really follow through with it. But the average review score is either between 8 or 9, so I feel like that's actually a pretty fair score. I think that's what I would give it to. I did enjoy this game a lot, and oddly enough, I appreciated this game the more that I played it. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's average. It's definitely above average, but for the Fire Emblem series, it's definitely not my favorite. It certainly is far from my least favorites, though. If one were to ask me where I would put this game in my series ranking, so that's favorite Fire Emblem game to least favorite Fire Emblem game, I said before that Three Houses might be in my 9 spot. Either 8 or 9. I can't remember exactly what I said, but at this point, if I go through all the games, I think I would put it at number 6. So it's just outside the top 5. It's just below Sacred Stones for me, and then just above Fates as of right now. It could change in a couple months because, this game's placement has been changing from all the placements in the timeline, in the rankings for me. So I don't know where it's going to be a month from now, but I think we're in the clear now. I think we've stabilized with Fire Emblem Three Houses. I suppose playing a game for 200 hours, you'll realize where it's going to be. I don't have a super lot to say on this game. This is my one page of notes for the pathway I did. And by the way, if you see Black Eagle spoiler discussion, you clicked on that title for that reason. This is going to be for the Silver Snow pathway. So that's the Black Eagle's church route. So if you did not do that route of the game, you can look at the annotation up here. I'll put something for the Crimson Flower route, which was my first playthrough of the game. So if that's the playthrough you did, go right up there. If not, if you want to hear the Silver Snow spoilers, this is the path for you. But of course, we won't be talking about spoilers right away. We're gonna be talking about some general thoughts. I don't have much to say. Anyway, I should mention that I was playing this game at a disadvantage. And what I mean by that is, because I'm doing the Fire Emblem Fates, or the Fire Emblem Three Houses retrospective video eventually, I was recording all of my footage up to this point to, stockpile, to get everything I need, to not have to go back, play the game again, and record it later. So, yeah, for that reason, I was recording every single second of every single minute I was playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. So yeah, I have like 200 hours of footage to go through. I think I should mention that because I had to set up the recording equipment each time. So this is going to sound like a very okay boomer thing, but sometimes I just didn't want to set up that equipment. Sometimes I could get home, I just plop down on the couch and think, man, I know that setting up my recording equipment is only like a 3-step process, but I just don't want to do it. I just want to play a game right now and not have to worry about recording the footage for a video or whatever. And so I would do that a lot of times when I otherwise could have been playing Three Houses. So for that reason, I couldn't play this game at my own pace. I had to play it more by a rigid schedule and time frame, and I had to really be committed to a play session whenever I started one up because I'm recording footage for it. And then you have to stop the recording, start the recording all the time. It's not a hard process, and I got into that process pretty quickly, but it was just a few minutes here and there each time where it did affect my playthrough because I had to stop for a moment, let footage render, and then start up again. And it was a process. But as a consequence of that as well, having to record all the footage, that means I had to play this game in dock mode 100% of the time. And for that reason, I couldn't take this game out in handheld and play it on a car ride somewhere or when I'm not away at home for any reason. And had I just had the opportunity to play like half a chapter in handheld mode, in bed or whatever, and then play the rest of the chapter on the TV screen in docked mode, I think that balance might have helped me enjoy the game more. That being said, it's not like a huge regret of mine, but it's something where if I gave myself that opportunity, I do wonder if that would have affected my experience overall. But now that I'm doing the Black Eagles pathway again, I actually had the opportunity to start up another playthrough and then play the first part of the game in handheld mode until I got to the part where new stuff happened and then I could start recording again. So that felt very good. It felt so nice to finally be playing in handheld for the first time since launch, mind you. Until this fourth playthrough of mine, I did not take the Switch out of my dock once to play Fire Emblem Three Houses. So yeah, that's wild. And oh boy, this game does not look good in handheld mode. Like, it's a 720p screen, obviously. I know there's only so much it can display, but it just doesn't look good. Textures look worse in this version, in handheld mode, I should say. Everything's in lower resolution, and the character details don't look good at all. And I acknowledge it's in handheld, there's only so much it can do, but there are definitely other games that look way better in handheld mode that are also 3D polygonal based, games like that. So for that reason, it didn't look amazing. So I was actually kind of glad in a way that I did play through the whole game docked. But yeah, it was fine. It's a fourth playthrough of the game. I can handle not good looking visuals in handheld mode. I think that's all I really wanted to say for non-spoiler stuff. I think there is one thing I do want to mention, though. That being, since I'm able to read the reviews now and get other people's opinions on the game, not that my own are solidified after 4 playthroughs, I noticed that a lot of people don't like Byleth as a character, which doesn't surprise me at all. I figured that was going to be a problem going into the game for many. I definitely don't mind, probably because I've played Persona 3, 4, 5, I've played Dragon Quest, I've played Legend of Zelda, I've experienced so many silent protagonist roles, and silent protagonist roles I feel are worse than Byleth. So, yeah, I think I should address that at least once. Yeah, I don't mind Byleth as a silent protagonist, and I guess I should be clear that, yes, I kept his name as Byleth in all my playthroughs. I didn't try to insert myself into his shoes. I tried to roleplay as him and the decisions I think he would make, which paralleled my own, because I guess in ways he is a self-insert character. But I do want to address that. I know people have expressed concern and worry over, why Byleth is the way that he is. Why did they make an avatar that doesn't talk about his history at all? Why do we have an avatar that everyone just kind of sucks up to again? And if you genuinely do feel that way, I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise, but what I liked about Byleth so much is that his silent protagonistisms are actually explained, well, maybe not explained, but inferred through the lore and the storytelling of the game. And I don't want to say why, because that is kind of a spoiler, I feel like. So, and I've also just talked about it at all my other spoiler discussions of this game at some point. So, check out the Black Eagles, other routes if you want to learn what I feel about that. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Byleth. Alright, I think that's all I wanted to say for non-spoiler stuff. I don't have too much to talk about, even for spoiler things as well. So, let's get into it. Spoiler time! If you do not want to be spoiled for the Black Eagle's Silver Snow Pathway. So, once again, that is the Silver Snow Pathway, that is the Black Eagle's church route. If you came from Crimson Flower, want to know my opinions on Crimson Flower, that's an entirely different video, so be aware of that. Otherwise, if you did do the church route or you want to stick around, hello, welcome to spoiler section. I gotta admit, I'm really disappointed that it was basically just the Golden Deer route again, except Claude isn't there. I gotta be honest, because I did Crimson Flower first, and that was wildly different from the second playthrough, which was the Blue Lions. And then when I did Golden Deer after that, it wasn't extremely different from Blue Lions, but it was different enough to the point where I could accept those differences, and I could accept doing the things I've already done, because I know new things were happening, and I'd get to newer things eventually. But for the church route, like I said, it was just Golden Deer again, except one chapter is missing, and that's really the only change until the final chapter of the game. So, like I said, that was disappointing. This might have been the least thought through route in that case. But either way, I liked Golden Deer. It was my favorite route of the game. I can't say so far anymore because I've done them all. Golden Deer was my favorite route of the game. And that's a route of the game I'd recommend to people who are playing this game. Only expect to play it one time and then never touch Three Houses again. But because it's similar enough to Verdant Wind, the Silver Snow is, I do feel like if you wanted to do the church route specifically, you could. And that could just be a fine one and done playthrough as well. I wouldn't recommend that as much. I would still recommend going with the Golden Deer because siding with the church is kind of lame in my opinion. So it wasn't until the final chapter of the game where we finally started getting new story content for this pathway. Well, at least new story content I couldn't have figured out in any other pathway. So I'd mentioned last time that I was like, Sedith and Flayn are totally dragons, right? Because I mentioned we never see their ears, but we know they at least have been living for thousands of years already. So that must mean they're dragons, right? So because we can't see their ears, they must be pointed, right? We still never see their ears, but Sedith does come out and mention at the very end, like, yeah, we're dragons. I could at one point transform into a dragon, but I can't anymore. I lost that power. So yeah, that's a done deal. That confirms my suspicions on that. But actually, going back to the pointed ears thing, if you look at the Seasons of Warfare Special Edition art book for the game, I don't know, you might be able to find scans online somewhere, but if you actually look at the concept art for Sedith and Flayn, you can actually see the outline they drew for their pointed ears. So that's neat. I do like that. I mean, they'd have to have it if they're, they'd have to have those if they are dragons, but still. Still nice that they did think that through. Also, I don't know where this is mentioned, but I found this out after the fact. Sedith and Flayn way more important to the story than I gave him credit for. Sedith is actually Saint Keyhole, and Flayn is actually Saint Cethlean from the war 1,000 years ago. I don't know where that's mentioned in the story. I might have missed that, and I acknowledge if I did. Maybe it's in a support conversation I didn't read, but it's kind of a little mind-blowing thing, like, I guess they are, So, I mean, I definitely buy Sedith more as Keyhole than I buy Flayn being Cethlean, but at the same time, it's not, like, immersion breaking, of course. It's just kind of a fun detail that I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. In the spirit of fairness as well, I should mention that last time I talked about Golden Deer, I did, like, bring out the theory that we never see Byleth here. Is Byleth also a Manakete? And I am a dummy idiot, because you can't see Byleth's ears in his character portrait in like dialogue boxes, but you can see his ears if you just turn the camera to look at him, and they are just rounded, normal human ears. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, if you think someone who played the game for 170 hours at that point would have seen Byleth's rounded ears at some point, but I forgot about that. So, rest in peace, me and my theories that are always wrong. So yeah, there's that. Other than that, after I finished the Golden Deer pathway, there was only one lingering question that was still on my mind, and that question was, who was Byleth's mother? And I kind of expected we would never have learned, because I didn't know if it was really important after a while. But yes, at the very end, we do find out the truth. So, in my first spoiler discussion, I brought forth the theory that I thought Byleth was a morph, and if you don't know what morph is for Fire Emblem series, morph is an artificial human created through non-natural means, and you typically used as puppets, like in Fire Emblem 7, for example. And I thought that's what Byleth was. I thought that he was a morph. And that turned out to be not true. That was disproven pretty quickly in my first playthrough. But I find it kind of funny that when Rhea finally tells us the truth, we learn that Byleth's mother was actually a morph. So, it all comes back around eventually. I'm right 50% of the time. So, yeah, that was fascinating. I was intrigued. So, I guess that would make Rhea Byleth's grandma, I guess. That's a weird thought. Because of Rhea, or Saros, however you want to say, because of her losing her mother all those years ago, she did questionable things in order to bring her back. And now we know that those questionable things are creating artificial humans. So yeah, that's pretty shady. And Byleth's mother in particular was the 12th experiment, the 12th morph she created. And she does this by taking the Crest of Flames, which would be Sothis' heart in this case, and then implanting it on the morph's heart. And then does this every single time. But this particular morph met up with Gerald, fell in love with him. They got a little frisky one night and then made a child, or I guess pregnant with the child. So when it came time for the child to be born, we were told in the past childbirth complications happened at this point. So the baby was delivered and he was already dead. At this point, he still didn't have a heartbeat. I don't remember if they said he was breathing or not, but I don't believe he was. So, yes, this child was dead upon arrival. And Byleth's mother then pleaded with Rhea to take the Crest of Flames that was implanted within her own heart and then give that to the child. She knew that doing so she would die, but she was willing to take that risk to save her son. And so Rhea did just that, took the Crest of Flames from her heart, gave it to Byleth, and there we go. We don't know why Byleth came out dead. It could be that it was just normal childbirth complications that he did die before he was actually born. It could be that because his mother was a morph, she could never truly give birth to a normal human child, and therefore already was dead. But either way, Byleth then was implanted with the Crest of Flames, and that's when he lost his emotions. That's when he shut down as a person, and then 20 years later-ish would be reborn when Sothis would speak to him for the first time. So, yeah, that's all I needed to know. That's a very satisfactory explanation. I like that explanation a lot. I'm very, very much fine with that. Oh, also the reason that Geralt is able to live for thousands of years is because he has the blood of Rhea within him. Somehow she used her blood to save his life. I guess he was bleeding on the battlefield. She did a magical blood transfusion to save his life. Therefore, he could live thousands of years and not age. So yeah, that's cool too. Glad to know. Glad to finally have that answer as well. And with that, the final chapter then spontaneously springs upon us, and I did express discontent with some of the other pathways, where it's like, I feel like the ending was coming a bit too soon, or I feel like the story wasn't naturally wrapping up, or I felt like the villain came out of nowhere for a not very clearly explained reason. This was by far the dumbest context for why we were having a final battle right now. So, for some reason, the dragon blood within Rhea was acting up, and she permanently reverted back to her Immaculate One form, and then started attacking the monastery, and then also all the high-ranking members of the church she also gave her blood to and crest stones to also turned into beasts to also attack the monastery? What kind of contingency plan did she make here exactly? For what purpose? I seriously want to give this game the benefit of the doubt. I did miss something, right? Please comment and let me know what lore tidbit I missed that somehow justifies this final battle. Because right now it's the dumbest final battle scenario in any Fire Emblem game I've played. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that's final chapter, and appropriately titled, the final chapter I completed in Fire Emblem Three Houses was aptly titled, The Final Battle. And that's nothing to that, but I just find that fascinating. So yeah, that's cool. I actually really did like the final chapter of this route. I liked the music that was going on. I liked all the enemies that were surrounding you. They were all really powerful enemies. I was playing this game on normal, and I grinded up my units. I still had a tough time with this chapter. And Rhea as a boss in this, as the final boss of this game, rather, very challenging. She was actually, in my opinion, a more difficult final boss than the final boss that I fought on the Crimson Flower side of the playthrough. So, I don't know why that was, necessarily. Maybe she just had higher defenses. Yeah, I actually did have a more difficult time fighting her. So I found that pretty interesting, actually. It's just a shame that, like I said, this is the dumbest reason for a final chapter to have ever existed in a Fire Emblem game. Also, Sedith, I brought Sedith up to Rhea to attack her, to see what he said, and he mentioned, "Sorry, Rhea, this is for the pride of the Nabateans," or whatever. I wouldn't bring this up normally. I don't think it's all that important. Nabateans would either be the town they once lived in, or the name of the specific people of the Manicheet in this universe. It's just the name Nabatean. I'm reminded of Nabata from Fire Emblem 6 and 7, the desert, where the town by the oasis in the desert was a place where humans and dragons coincided with each other. This has to be a nod, in my opinion. I feel like that's a little too deliberate to be just a coincidence of naming. So, yeah, that's all I have to comment on that. Anyway, that's it. You kill Rhea, and then in one final escape, she makes her way to the church. You follow suit, reverts back to her human form. You catch her, and she dies in your arms, saying, "Mother, you've returned to me," or something like that. It was a bittersweet ending. I did actually like this ending. It was definitely not my favorite of the endings for any of the routes, but I thought it was just fine. It was on the same caliber, at least. Still impactful. So for that reason, I did like the ending. I still wish they elaborated on the endings more for the games. I wish you had more time to develop, like, what's going to happen in New Foldland now that the people are going places. I know you still kind of get that with the epilogue descriptions for each of the characters, but at the same time, I just wish we had more closure after the story of Three Houses. any of the routes that goes for. Like I said, it feels kind of bittersweet to be done with this game completely. Feels like a weight has been lifted off my chest, and I'm not sure what to do with myself now. But yeah, I've definitely warmed up to this game over time. I definitely appreciate this game, not more than when I started, but in a different way from where I started. I definitely appreciate this game more after having played through the other house routes. I definitely don't think this is the best Fire Emblem game, and I think it's fine that it's not in my top 5 for the series. But I think even in a few years, I'm going to look back on this game very fondly. I think I'm going to say that, yeah, Fire Emblem Three Houses was a pretty special game. I do think I will be saying that, and I think in the long run I will be able to definitively say that I might have actually enjoyed this game more than I enjoyed Fates. So we'll see. We'll give it time. I don't know if we can say definitively yes or no at this point, but anyway, yeah, that's it for Fire Emblem Three Houses. I'd say something like see you next time when we talk about the next route, but it doesn't sound like we'll be getting another route. Doesn't sound like we'll be getting anything else. There is supposedly some story DLC coming. Some details have been leaked. I don't know if I want to share that in this video because maybe you're trying to be media blackout for that. I honestly don't know from the leak though if it actually is going to be a new story, if it's going to be some like more complicated side quest chain. We'll figure it out when that actually releases. But tentatively for right now, we're done with Fire Emblem Three Houses. That's all the spoilers I have to spoil. That's all the discussion I have to discuss. If you did not happen to see my Fire Emblem Fates video, I should make it clear here as well that don't expect the Three Houses video to be anytime soon. Expect that video to come out in spring 2020 at the earliest, because I want to give myself time to still reflect on the game yet. I do want to maybe play this game casually to see what that experience is like, to have a playthrough where I'm not recording it every single second of the day. And then also just to give myself some time to really make the script exactly the way I want it to be, or at least get as close to satisfaction as I can possibly get. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching the Fire Emblem video today, and well, maybe I'll see you next time when we talk about Fire Emblem Three Houses in a full retrospective glory.